buy, rent, or steal a boat and sail to Greece. And I'm laughing. I'm like, no, really, what's the plan? Like, no, that's the plan. That is the plan. We actually briefed that to the vice commandant of the Coast Guard.
All right, sorry. So we were talking about we did. I had just asked you where you went after Iraq. So I'm sorry. We have to start again.
No worries. As I said, you had already been in country for I don't know. You guys did year tours.
Mine was, I think, in total a little over 11 months.
Little over 11 months, and that's what we were. Anyway, we were told anywhere between 11 to 14 months.
Yeah.
And so I did my first 6 months in Iraq, and then we parted company on the last day of the Iraq War. That we basically turned out the lights and handed the keys to the Iraqis and left the country. And I went right from Iraq to Afghanistan, where I did that same raid team job at Camp Leatherneck in Helmand Province for the next. I ended up only doing about a little over 5 months because I had I was supposed to do a whole 6-7 months over there, and then I had a death in the family. My brother had passed away, and so they pulled me out of country. And I'll say this: the Coast Guard did a great job. They had me out of Camp Leather. Actually, I had already left Camp Leatherneck. I was in Bagram, and they got me from Bagram back to Kuwait, back to the United States within 36 hours.
Wow.
I actually beat some relatives that were flying out from the West Coast.
That's crazy.
To back to Delaware. And so the Coast Guard, the Army, for all the complaints that people make, and rightly so, they were on the ball. The minute they got that Red Cross message, they had me on planes, and they had me back in the States in time for the funeral, which, and to be there with family was really important. Getting the message was a weird story. I'm in Bagram, and I had pretty much the day off, and I get called into the office, the Coast Guard office, and we had a Coast Guard lieutenant there. And this was the day after Mother's Day. And I remember specifically not calling home on Mother's Day because I knew I was only going to be in Afghanistan for another couple days before I was going to do like my last month and a half was going to be in Kuwait. So I was going to call. I had planned on 2 days later, I'm going to call Mom. I'm going to say, sorry, I missed Mother's Day, but your Mother's Day present is I'm out of Afghanistan, and I'll be in Kuwait for the last, month and a half.
Yeah.
I thought that would be a pretty good Mother's Day gift. So
nice,
I get called into the office, and the Coast Guard lieutenant sees me, and he just puts his hand on my shoulder, and, I think I'm in trouble for something. I think, something's wrong with my paperwork or the container counts. He just sighs and says, call your mother, and walks away. And I'm like, how did the Coast Guard know I didn't call Mom on Mother's Day? Man, these guys are really keeping tabs.
They're on the ball, man.
And then it hit me. I'm like, oh no, it's call home because something bad's happened.
Yeah.
And when they said call your mother, I immediately thought I thought my father had passed away. And still going strong. We watched the Eagles game today. So
well, that's awesome.
We're both throwing things at the TV, so he's still in great shape. And I called home, and when my father answered, I thought, oh, okay, this is Mom's okay, Dad's okay. It's probably some uncle or cousin or family member I haven't seen in 20 years, and I wasn't prepared for it to be my brother. And it was a heart condition that nobody knew that he had. The other funny part of this story was it was a congenital thing. So, very possibly I could have had it. They said, oh, go in, get a chest x-ray to check out your heart. Look for these, problems. My sister had already done it. And so I went right to medical and said, hey, my brother just died of this condition. I need a chest x-ray to see if I have the condition too. So I don't, just drop dead. And I remember it's just, okay, I think we can schedule you in next month. Or I'm like, no, there's not no next month. I might not be here next month, you know?
No.
And no, it was about a month and a half before I got the chest x-ray. But I am clear that I don't have that problem. But
No.
the other funny part of that story is that not only did they send me home in a hurry, they sent Butters with me. So Butters was literally like, they sent me back with a chaperone. And I was like, no, it's okay, Commander. I'm good to go. He's like, no, I think we're gonna send Butters with you. We're looking at the flights they did for you. You're gonna have a couple hour layover in Germany, couple hour layover here, couple hour layover there, and there's bars in those airports, and no, he's going with you.
Yeah.
And so, which was nice to have him. And he actually stayed at the house, stayed at my folks' house, and watched the house while we were all at the funeral. And that's why that picture there in my background, because all three of the Adder team made it to my brother's funeral.
Oh,
So
wow.
Steve drove down from Boston. Jesse drove up from Virginia, and Butters was there with me. So we had the whole Adder team, the coasty side of the Adder team, at my brother's funeral, which
Yeah.
was nice to have.
Well, I'm sorry for your loss there, brother. And, I mean, I had no idea that even happened, and had I known at the time, I mean, I would have been in the car right there with you.
Yeah, it
And
was. I really wasn't expecting them to make. Like I knew they had heard it, and I didn't even tell them. They heard it through the grapevine.
yeah.
You know, telephone, telegraph, telecoasty, and I was getting condolence messages from people that I had like 2 units previously that I had served with. That's how
Yeah.
fast that the rumor, and not a rumor, that there was a fact, but that's how fast that got around the Coast Guard. And
But I mean, that's kind of a magical thing about it when you talk about the brotherhood and camaraderie, and it's great that was able. I mean, assuming you're okay with your business getting out,
yeah,
but I mean, it's nice that they were able to know and they were able to get there and be at the funeral, and I mean, it's really kind of commendable for your leadership, your chain of command to act so quickly to get you home and to send Butters with you. I mean, that was, like you say, that I can only imagine just how you felt at the time and trying to navigate all that and having someone there with you that could do that.
they really put a lot of thought into it, and it really impressed me, and it was something that I took with me for the rest of my career. That as I became a senior person, and I kept it in the back of my head, if this ever happens to somebody, one of my subordinates, I need to be this good. I need to be able to get them home, and remember to get, if it's a really bad situation, get them a chaperone, get them home, I need to be on the ball making these arrangements, because that standard that the raid team set, it's a high standard, but I think it's the proper standard, and it's something that I carried with me the rest of my career.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I experienced guys who, one guy, his wife had to have, it was a surgery. It was a fairly minor surgery, and they didn't deem it, enough for him to go home. But at the same time, the Army was being jerks about just like giving him the day off to be available for a phone call. That way she could let him know, like, hey, surgery went well, everything's all good. And it's like, okay, I get maybe not sending him home for, an outpatient procedure kind of thing, but it's like stuff can still go wrong. She was under anesthesia, she was put out, and they had to do. So I don't think it's that big a deal, especially when we were doing nothing in Kuwait.
Yeah,
Just be like, take the day off, bro, and don't worry. Do what you need to do to not stress about this.
I think that's where chaplains and things like that really need to step up and tell commands, hey, we need to get this guy a little separation here. Like you said, even if you're not going to send him home, let's have him not thinking about doing work, because what kind of work are you going to get out of somebody like that anyway, who's worried about a wife or a child, or um, let's give them, if we can't get them home, then let's give them a few hours.
Yeah, yeah, and it's not like we got bullets flying overhead at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that would be different.
That would
I
be
had
different.
I had a conversation with a friend of ours, a family friend who's a Vietnam vet. Hopefully, you'll see the episode soon. But just talking about that, sometimes in the moment you have to put that stuff aside and get the job done.
Yeah,
And I totally get it. But there are other times where it's like, listen, we can take a break. And then in your case, even more so, having the wherewithal to realize when you get on that plane and you're sitting on a layover in Germany and not having to worry about the Coast Guard and all your job and everything, and just focusing on what's going on in your life, like who knows what happens when that ton of bricks falls in that person's lap.
yeah, yeah. It's and having Butters there, so that if it did hit me like a ton of bricks at some point, I'm not just there bawling my eyes out, in the middle of an airport, and people, looking at me like I'm having some kind of, mental breakdown. That at least there's somebody there who's knows what's happening and can say, hey, no, he just lost a family member. That's why he's upset. It's
Yeah.
having somebody like that who can do some explaining. Uh, you know, it means a lot, and it can really help facilitate a quick and easier travel home.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that was your experience because
Yeah.
in doing this so far, most of the time it has been contrary to.
Yes. Well, it's like I said, it really for me, it set a precedent that, okay, this is how it should go every time. And
Yeah.
ever in a position where I'm in charge of somebody, I'm going to make sure that it happens for them just like it happened for me. And I think that's leadership in the at the end of the day. That,
Yeah.
hey, we've set, this is the standard. Let's hold. We don't just hold people to standards when it just benefits the unit and not necessarily benefits the member. We need to hold the standard that benefits the member, even when it might be a difficulty on the unit.
Yeah, for sure.
But enough of that. Enough of that downer story. Yeah. After I got back to the world, I I went from one wild and weird coasty job, which was the raid team, right into another. Like I told you in the first video, I've had the most non-traditional Coast Guard career.
Your whole life is wild and weird, man.
Yeah. And I went to what they called the International Training Detachment. Sometime it was then called ITD, and then now it's called the International Training Team for the Coast Guard. And that was my longest ever unit. I actually I got two extensions there. And so I did 5 years. So I did 21 years total. 5 of the 21 years were at the International Training Team. And that was something like, it was 40 missions overall and 26 different countries.
Wow.
Over 40 missions. And so, and it was basically, I was teaching basic boarding officer tactics to the navies and the coast guards of all these other countries. Did a lot of African nations, a lot of Southeast Asian nations. I came to find out that Southeast Asia is having the majority of the countries down there. When you think about Taiwan, Thailand, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, I should have written down these countries. But Vietnam, they are all having problems with China.
Yeah.
Their big problem was China is overfishing the territorial waters of these other countries. I actually did my team while I was there. I wasn't on this particular mission, but the international training team for the Coast Guard did the very first U.S. mission into Vietnam since the war.
Wow.
We were an official U.S. mission, going down there to train Vietnamese Coast Guardsmen. And if they wanted boarding training because they were boarding a lot of Chinese fishing boats and seizing the catch, and they're having some problems down there with China. We did a joint class where it had like 10 Vietnamese, 10 Thai, 10 Cambodian, and 10 Malaysian. So it was a 40 student class, and lots of translators.
Yeah.
But we got through it, and it was a good course because it not only gives them skills that they didn't have before, but it also really improves relations. Being in Vietnam for weeks at a time, and I would walk out of the hotel at 6:00 in the morning, and get a jog in, and I would just see all the Vietnamese people out there, and they're either sweeping the street or doing some Tai Chi, but everybody's out and about really early in the morning, and getting to know the people through our translators was one of the funnier exchanges we had, because we're turning on the students to movies like Full Metal Jacket. And
yeah, I bet that went over well.
Well, I thought it wasn't me that suggested it, believe it or not. I was into this. It was,
but you didn't protest though, did you?
Yeah. Well, it was another guy, and I pulled our translator aside and I said, "Hey, just so you know, this is a pretty hardcore depiction of the Vietnam War from the American point of view. So it may not come off, making you guys look the best." And he just waved his hand and said, don't worry about it. We got no hate towards the U.S. We won the war. It's like, I can't argue. So they're, but it's become a very modern country now. It was very clean.
Yeah.
That was my overall impression when I traveled through Vietnam. Very clean, very, and super nice people. I was worried that there would be some of, a little backlash, but
yeah,
at least
animosity.
The population that's there now seems to have moved forward. And because, that war is, pushing 60 years ago now. So
yeah,
it's, there's every year there's less and less people that remember that time.
I tried to convince my wife to go on vacation there because I had read about how you can have just an incredible vacation for cheap, and that even the Vietnamese government is like, yeah, America, come spend your money. Let's do this.
Cambodia, I found, was the best for if you're trying to stretch your travel dollar. I was in Phnom Penh, and we went out to a restaurant the first night I was there, and I'd gotten a really good steak. It was Australian beef. So it was a really good steak, all the trimmings. I got a yard of beer, which is, basically a beer in this 3-foot tube.
Yeah.
With a little spigot on there. So you stick your mug underneath, pour and, so I had a yard of beer, steak, all the trimmings, the bill came out to about $12 American.
Wow.
I mean, I was like, I had to like shake my head and like, am I reading this right? This can't be right. I'm like, I'm redoing the calculations for the conversion rate. I'm like, no, this meal costs us about $12. And I was like, I need to come to Cambodia more often.
That's wild.
And so that was the next 5 years was me working. I eventually became a team leader, so I was in charge of uh, the teams that were going out to these other countries and uh, making decisions. You know, like hey, maybe we should pull out of here a couple days early, or we should. Yeah, I remember we were in Liberia with the oh, I can't remember the name of the disease now. They had a big outbreak of it. Um, but it was we had decided, okay, we're getting out of here now. And we get to the airport, at the airport in Monrovia, they don't have computers. They have
Okay.
fax machines. So you're right. I had changed our flights to get us out. I had gotten us on the last British Airways flight out of Monrovia, and we're a 4-man team. We get to the airport, 3 faxes come through. So our fourth guy, they're taking our bags, they're loading up our bags, and all right, you need to get on the plane. I'm like, well, we're not leaving without our fourth guy.
Yeah.
Well, the fax hasn't come through, so he's staying, you're going. And we're like, no, we're not going. And this turned into about a 15-minute argument of we're not leaving him here. Either we're all staying or we're all going.
Yeah.
And at about the 20-minute mark is when I started to panic, because I could look out the window and I could see some of our bags coming off the plane and coming back into the airport. I'm like, oh, we're in trouble. And finally, the fourth fax comes through. All right, he gets a boarding pass. We're ready to go. The guy pushing the luggage bin taps me on the shoulder. Hey, boss, you take care of me, right? Like, yeah, I got you. I look in my pocket. I've only got a $20 bill. Look, $20 goes a long way in Monrovia, Liberia. And I hand him the $20. He goes, that's good. Take care of me. Your bags, they never leave this place. In fact, when we would get back from trips, I remember going to the admin people and saying, listen, I'm doing my travel claim. In the drop down menu, I need an expenditure for bribes. And I don't care what you call it, but it takes bribes to get out of the airport sometimes.
Yeah.
It takes bribes to get your gear out of customs. I remember, I think it was it Gabon or I think it was Gabon. They because we traveled, with training equipment, which were non-guns for I don't even know if you guys use non-guns in the Army, but they're basically they're a law enforcement training tool. They're just basically a big hunk of plastic in the shape of a rifle, or big hunk of plastic in the shape of a pistol, and that's what we use to train the guys with, because we're not going to use live weapons and live ammunition in training, but they're solid hunks of plastic. They have
not even like the simunitions or anything, just like
even simunition. So they're just a hunk of plastic in the shape of a gun.
Yeah.
And I remember the customs guys not letting us, like kind of seizing our training gear, and the guy trying to rack the slide to the rear. And like, it's not real. There's no slide to rack.
Yeah.
I grabbed one out of the bag, and they all got real scared. Ugh. I'm like, no, it's not real. I start pounding it on the ground. I'm like, I had to open up. I put it to my head and started squeezing. And they're like, no. I'm like, it's not real.
Yeah, well, we have those. We had like M16s, so we called them rubber duckies.
Yes.
Because it was basically just like a metal tube with rubber molded around it in the shape of the rifle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that
Yep, yep. We had a couple of those.
I can't believe there's not. I mean, I guess if it happened, it would have to happen now versus then. But like a YouTube video somewhere of you pulling the trigger of a rifle to your head.
And I think we had I got out of town ahead of just a few coups. Uh, there was one in it was another African country. It was West African country, and I can't remember the name right offhand. But we were, we get the call from the embassy. Go ahead and go. Just go to the airport right now and get out of town.
Yeah,
Fly back now if you can. And we were literally we were just a couple hours ahead of the government collapsing.
really.
And then the big one I was on was Turkey, and this was 2016, 15, 16. I'd have to look up when the attempted coup was on President Erdogan.
Okay, gotcha.
But President Erdogan was supposed to come down to our training site and observe the training. Like we were going to put on a whole dog and pony show for him, showing Turkish Coast Guard doing a boarding with, me playing the bad guy and, showing them, cuffing us and showing all the skills.
Yeah, making their guys look good.
Yeah. And I'm actually watching television. I'm watching CNN Turkey as a SWAT team walks in the middle of the broadcast and like grabs the anchor and like pulls the anchor man out of the chair and they basically shut down CNN Istanbul. And it turned into in fact my mother called my cell phone, my work cell phone, because we had international cell phones there, and saying, "Hey, are you all right? Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, the embassy hadn't told us anything yet, so I think we're probably in a wait and see pattern." And that was a really, really nice hotel that they had put us up in, and it was right on a beach, and so every morning I would get up at like 6 o'clock in the morning and go run 6 miles on the beach, 3 miles up, 3 miles back, because they had that much shoreline that I could just have at it. I was running marathons at the time, so I was doing a lot of jogging, and I remember it was in the middle of the week. It was like a Wednesday, and I was not the team leader on this trip. The team leader calls me and says, "Where are you? Where are you at? Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just on the beach doing my job. What's wrong? We don't start class for another like 2 hours. We got plenty of time to get changed." And he said, "No, you need to get back to the hotel right now." So I'm like, "All right, I'm almost done this run anyway." So, I get back, meet up with him in the lobby, him, our other two team members, and one of the two U.S. Embassy guys. And they sit us down and say, "Last night, while you were all asleep, the Turkish secret police came to the hotel. They've arrested the translators. They've arrested the students. And they arrested one of the U.S. Embassy guys. And we're not sure why they didn't arrest you." Because we did not have diplomatic immunity.
Yeah.
We were on NATO orders, but we did not have diplomatic immunity. So, they were like, even the other embassy guy was like, "We actually don't know why you're not arrested, but we think that you should go ahead and pack your bags and leave now." And this is where I was not the voice of reason. I raised my hand and said, "Hey, wait a minute. If we leave now, we actually look guilty. This is an all-inclusive resort they've got us in. Let's stay here and just, we don't have any students. We just won't have class, but let's stay here and, just enjoy the food, enjoy the drink for the next, we were not leaving until Sunday. So let's just stay and have a few drinks. Hey, let's have some lunch now and we'll just enjoy these next 4 days. And then we'll leave when we were supposed to leave." And that's when the embassy guy said, are you the one that was in Afghanistan? I'm like, yeah, why? Well, you're the one they're really not sure about, the police. You're the one that the police have questions about, whether you might have been here to be part of the coup, or to train up these guys to do something to the president when he would show up for his demonstration. So you actually, even if the other stayed, you should probably get out now. And in fact, the embassy suggested, they're like, hey, because we actually had a red passport, the official government passport. We also had our blue tourist passports with us.
Yeah.
We always carried two passports. And they said, take your blue passport, hide it in your sock.
Yeah.
Go to the airport, check in on your red passport. If they seize your red passport, run. And just drop your shit and run. And try to get down to the boat launch, buy, rent, or steal a boat and sail to Greece. And I'm laughing. I'm like, no, really, what's the plan? Like, no, that's the plan. That is the plan. We actually briefed that to the vice commandant of the Coast Guard and said, yeah, we'll steal a boat, and we'll Greece is just right over there. So
Yeah.
we'll have at least we'll have documents to get us into Greece. And we get to the airport. Luckily, they don't seize our passports, though we get some strange looks because it's a Wednesday. I'm sorry, by now it's Thursday, and we're not supposed to leave till Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get the woman at the airport's typing our names, and, oh, your flight's not till Sunday. Yeah, I know. Go ahead and put us on the next flight out. And it's just
Anywhere.
like, well, the next flight to the United States isn't till 8 o'clock tonight. No, sweetie. Next flight anywhere. And it was one of those where money was no object.
Yeah.
We were gonna max out the government credit card, and we had full, permission to max out the government credit card. And they're like, flight to Switzerland is in 2 hours. We'll take it. And so 2 hours later, we were on a flight to Switzerland, and took another couple days to get us back to the world. But
wow.
we had maxed out government credit cards and filling out like the weirdest travel claims of all time, and I remember getting nasty emails from admin people.
Yeah.
This is not an authorized charge. What are you doing flying business class? And it was like, hey, we got orders next flight out.
Yeah.
It so happens it's if it's a little more expensive, too bad, so sad. But we had some really good adventures.
You needed like your own discretionary fund. That was just
yeah.
like,
oh yeah.
This is a separate pot of money that is, there's no set amount, and it's no one has to come look over and approve of these things in case you got to get out of the country.
Well, the another weird one was, I think, and this was Gabon. The hotel we were staying at did not take credit cards.
Oh yeah.
So what we had to do every 2 days, we would go to the embassy, use the embassy ATM, and take out the max allowable on the card for that day. Take out that money, take it back, put it in an envelope, put it in your hotel safe, and stack it up, so that by the end of 14 days, we had enough cash to pay our hotel bill. And then, trying to jive that with the yeoman and administration staff. They're like, why did you pull out, $500 a day every other day? And why don't you have a charge for your hotel? I'm like, they didn't take credit cards. And they were like, and they thought they were catching us in like some shady, trying to defraud the government. Oh, look at this. I got this big case of fraud, waste, and abuse right here. I got them on fraud. Like, what hotel doesn't take credit cards? Come on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, have you ever been to Gabon? You know,
Like, look, my receipt's written on a napkin.
yeah. The receipt is on a napkin. He was like, can you even find Gabon on a map? I'll give you a map of just Africa. Find it. You know, I'll put you on the right continent. You still can't find Gabon. I tell you, I did. I think we might have talked about this in the previous video. I did 2 missions in Djibouti.
I think we might have touched on it a little bit.
Yeah, where I got the first one, I got to stay in the Kapinski, and that's a good hotel. That was you know, people were complaining about Djibouti as a mission, and I understand why, because to train Djiboutian military, you have to get all the work done before lunch.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're chewing cot during the day. So by about 10, 11 o'clock, they are zonked out. You're not teaching anything to them. For those that may not know, cot is a leaf that they chew.
Okay, I was just about to ask, what is chewing cot?
Africa there, a lot of the East African nations, and it's it's they use it as more of an appetite suppressant because there's just not a lot of food in the country, but it gives you a high, it zonks you out. It's
really,
and we didn't even bother trying to train after noon because they were all out of it. And then by my second mission, have you ever been to Camp Lemonnier?
No.
Okay, so the first time, even though I'm staying at the Kapinski, we would drive out to Camp Lemonnier because their DFAC was so good.
Really?
Mess hall, because back then they were an expeditionary base. So they were getting expeditionary money, and they had really good food. And I mean,
and they're out in the middle of nowhere, so the cooks are like, we can kind of do what we want.
Mm-hmm.
Not like in America where it's like, you can't put in American DFAC, it's like you can't put salt and you can't put this because the allergies that and blah. They were like, whatever, cook food.
Yep. And they had money too. That expeditionary money meant that they could go out and buy some really good food. And so we would do laundry there. We would shop at the at the exchange, at the PX, and we would eat there because the food was so good. The food was as good, if not better, than most of the places out in town. And then my second mission there, couldn't stay at the Kapinski anymore because the head of AFRICOM denied it. Even though we tried to argue we're not part of AFRICOM, we're working for the embassy.
Yeah,
it wouldn't take that excuse, and the general at AFRICOM demanded everybody who's doing missions in Djibouti is going to be living at Camp Lemonnier. So we have to live there at Lemonnier now. I'm like, well, okay, it can be worse. They're gonna, at least I'll have that good food all the time. Get in there, find out they're no longer an expeditionary base, no longer getting expeditionary money, and the quality of the food subsequently, took a downturn.
Yeah.
And so now I'm miserable for the next 2 weeks eating that. I can't say it's bad food, but it's just from what it was before. It was just, starting off your day with a disappointing breakfast does not bode well for how it's going to go for the rest of the day.
They brought in that new major who was there to make sure it was being made the correct bland way.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And
at that time, they were talking about Africa might be the next main area that they were going to be doing a lot of like permanent tours at, weren't they? That was kind of the idea.
I heard that from Army guys that because there was when I probably did of those 26 different countries, probably about 15 of them were African countries. So I did a lot of missions in Africa, and Well, the one thing I saw more than anything else were the Chinese building military bases there.
Yeah.
So they wanted, the Chinese were making a big footprint there. So I think we were trying to match them, base for base. Um, and then had to live in a chew again for 2 weeks there at Lemonnier instead of staying at the Kapinski. So yeah, it was just, oh man, they had terrible dust storms there too.
Really?
So you would take the shower in the shower trailer that did not have good drainage. So if you were in the shower for more than 5 minutes, you were ankle deep.
Yeah.
And so now you got to slosh through. You toweled off, you dried off, you're sloshing through. You're nice, and you're not damp, but you're freshly showered. Your hair's still damp.
Yeah.
You take 2 steps outside, and you just get blasted with the dust. And you get back to your chew, and you just you're shaking up. You need another shower again.
Scraping the fungus off your feet.
Yep. Oh, I ran through a couple bottles of tough actin Tinactin to sit there. I was spraying down my feet after because you're walking through at this point. It's raw sewage.
Yeah.
You're what that water's backing up from.
Yeah.
And, it was just Djibouti was just a miserable 2 weeks for that second trip. The funny story from there was they had just gotten a new command there at Lemonnier. And so the new commander, it's like, all right, I want to show how great Americans are and what great neighbors we are with this base. He sends all of the soldiers out with trash bags and go ahead and pick up any trash that's, go out about 50 yards, 50 to 100 yards all around the fence line and pick up all the trash. We're going to make this base so clean. They picked up all the trash, hundreds and hundreds of full trash bags, that, get dragged back inside the base to be disposed of. The base got sued by the Djiboutian government for stealing building material from the Djiboutian people. Can't make it up.
What?
So then, in the most army thing I've ever heard of, the most army thing ever, the commander says, all right, have the soldiers go get those trash bags, take them back out around the fence line, dump out everything you picked up. They put it right back. And in fact, I think they left the trash bags there too. So not only are we not stealing building material, we just left you, a couple hundred trash bags. Have at it, guys. And it's, I was like, wow. It's like, I really feel like I'm in the army again.
So yeah, just straight petty, like, oh, just go put the trash back, I guess.
I felt bad for the soldiers.
Yeah.
You spend all day picking up trash that's not your trash to begin with. And then, all right, young private, young corporal, specialist, good job. Look what a great job you've done. You helped beautify Djibouti. You've shown the Djiboutians what good neighbors the U.S. Army is. We are a positive impact on this country. 2 days later, go into that dumpster, get all the trash bags out, walk it around the perimeter, and dump all the trash back out.
That's insane.
It's man. Literally the most army thing I've ever heard.
I can only imagine what all those people were doing, just cussing all of the leadership. Like, we just picked another, putting us back out. What is going on? That is.
I'm sure you had at least one sergeant overseeing this going, is that where that trash was? Or trash on the other side?
Is that trash?
Don't dump that trash there. You want to dump that trash over there.
Yeah. You see that hole in the ground? Does that pot you have in your hand fit in that hole? Put the puzzle together correctly.
So
dude,
yeah,
I'd have been so mad. I'm sorry. Like, I'd have been so upset.
I could just imagine. And the funniest part of that was, we had to leave the base every day to go train the Djiboutians.
Yeah.
So we one we would go to the gate, and you have to check out with the front gate, and there's an Army guy and a Navy guy. For if you're in the Army, check out with the Army. If you're in the Navy, check out with the Navy. Neither of them knew we're coasties. And the Navy guy's like, you probably want to check out with the Army guy then. The Army guy's, no, you want to check out with the Navy guy. And they're arguing with each other over who checks us out. And I'm like, and I don't want to be checked out at all. I just like, hey, you know what? We're here working for the embassy. We're not even working for AFRICOM. Just open the damn gate and let us through. Yeah. And then they're like, you can't leave without leave papers. Like, we're not on leave. We're going to work. We're going to train the Djiboutians. And I might as well have been speaking Martian because they had no concept of, they were told, hey, no one leaves without leave papers.
Yeah.
And, and because nobody's doing any work off base. They don't understand the concept of doing a mission off the base. No, you only go off base because you're on leave, because you were given permission to go to the Kapinski for a day. They were selling, or not selling, but they were raffling off, like, you can do 24 hours at the Kapinski. If you do this, do that, whatever, sign up, get your name pulled out of a hat. And I'm like, oh, so they'll let somebody stay there for one night, but they won't let my coastie team stay there for 14 nights, even though it would make it so much easier for us to do our actual mission. And of course, the embassy was no help. And, that they had us just locked down like that. But the funniest part of this was, okay, at least, if we're checking out every day and checking back in, at least if something bad happens to us, at least someone will know, and maybe they'll get out the quick reaction force to come and find us. So we're getting ready to leave on like a Thursday, and the guy, hey, I'm checking out, Coast Guard team checking out for the day to go train the Djibouti Navy. And he's got up in his computer. He's like, you guys didn't check in from yesterday. And I'm like, yes, we did. We most certainly checked in yesterday. It takes us like a half an hour to check in and out. So I know for a fact we checked in yesterday. No, in the computer, it says you guys are still out. And I'm like, question. If we're still out and we're overdue by now more than 24 hours, how come nobody's come out to look for us? And he's like, when somebody's been gone for more than 24 hours, don't you think that's something that should be reported up the chain? And once again, I'm speaking Martian.
And this poor little E4 or something's getting yelled at by Thunder Dan.
Yeah, it's like
something he has no control over.
Yeah. I was like, did you check out with the Army and then try to check in with the Navy? I'm like, I checked out at the desk. See this desk? This is where I checked out at. Oh, because if the Navy guy checked you back in, it wouldn't go into our system. And I'm ready to pull my hair out because I'm like, what? I'm like, I understand, there's bureaucracy and some things get lost in translation. But, now if it's this inefficient, if it's this useless, why are we doing it at all?
Yeah.
And that was the overwhelming thing about, why are we doing this at all if it's this pointless? And I think that's when I decided that the next Djibouti mission that comes up, I'm gonna have some kind of medical ailment that's gonna prevent me. I think. Sorry, guy. I just twisted my ankle on a run. I can't. I'm going to need to be on light duty for. How many days was it? Was this a 2-week mission? I'm going to be on light duty for 14 days. That's Sorry, I'm not making this one. I tell you, you can put me on the Malta trip down the road. Malta or. Any one of these, nicer trips, I'll happily go on that.
Give me some crutches. I'll go on that one. But this one, no.
Oh yeah.
Did you work on Arif John at all in Kuwait?
Yeah.
Camp Arif John. So did you have to travel back and forth to the port, or did you stay on Arif John?
So I never traveled to the port. I traveled to the Navy base, Kuwaiti Naval Base.
Okay.
Um, and you're gonna have to give me a second here because I've done so many of these Kuwait missions. My first tour in '07,
Yeah.
uh, when I was on a Coast Guard cutter guarding the Iraqi oil platforms, that my boat would pull into Kuwait every 5 days. So
Hmm.
I remember Kuwaiti Naval Base really well, and I remember going back to it a few times when I was with the raid team. Um, but it all starts to melt together a little bit. So,
Yeah.
Arif John, I think I was in Arif John for maybe like just a couple weeks here and there, maybe a total of like 20 days total of
Yeah.
all my of 2011 2012 that year. I think I was there for 20 days, 25 days total,
Yeah.
back and forth. Just it would be just a stopover or a layover. Then actually, you know what, we did Christmas there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we did because we left Adder, Camp Adder, when we shut down that base, and I think we left there like December 22nd or 23rd, and because and then I was laid over there for about a week with Butters and Jess, and
Yeah.
I remember doing Christmas there. Um,
The reason I ask is because when I was on Air John, we worked on the seaport. It wasn't the naval base. We went to the naval base a couple of times, but in order to leave Air John and go to the seaport every day, if I remember correctly, we had to have like weekly orders because, like you say, the bureaucracy and the bull. And
mhm.
so, if it was like every Friday, they would gather everybody together to have all of these new set of printed. I don't know if they were even actually really signed by anybody important or if they were just rubber stamped and someone took white out and changed the dates on these things because it was so ridiculous because it was like a similar kind of thing for us to leave. We had to have these weekly orders. They couldn't write some kind of indefinite order for us because the dumb way the system was set up. And and you had to have it on you all the time, and you got four people in a car, and inevitably one person would forget it back in their bunk.
Yeah.
So the whole car, it's like, all right, well, either this guy, we drop him off and he walks back and catches a ride with someone else, or we turn around and go get him or whatever. Now we're all late. So yeah, just the silliness of like I understand, man, but it's like, and especially with some of those gate guards, like you see me every day, man. Like, come on.
The only paperwork I ever needed around Kuwait, and this was my first tour. Um, we would pull my Coast Guard cutter would pull into Kuwait, um, because it was a 110-foot patrol boat, so it was not meant for extended periods. So we'd run out of food about the 5 day mark, and so the cook on the ship, and uh, she would take two or three of us to help carry stuff, and the only paperwork I had was my country of Kuwait concealed carry permit, because they would not let us off Kuwaiti Naval Base unarmed.
Yeah.
So we would get a not a rental car, but like issued a vehicle, and we'd get everybody gunned up, and we were allowed to get concealed carry holsters. I was the weapons guy on the boat, so I was in charge of ordering some nice concealed carry holsters for the crew, so
Yeah.
that whoever was going out could have a 9 millimeter on them. That's dating myself now, 9 millimeter Beretta, and but that was it. We just off base, come back on base. As long as you have it was your ID, and if you're carrying, you got to have your concealed carry permit, which I still have. Which is I wish I had that right now. I'd pull that out as a prop. You
Yeah.
know, Kuwait concealed carry
I,
permission.
I don't have anything cool like that. I have my Kuwaiti postmaster card where I was allowed to handle people's mail.
Oh, there you go.
So where'd you go next after Djibouti?
Uh, it's less. I remember it less about like when the time period as and more of like what's the good stories.
Yeah,
Like what
gotcha.
like hey what's a good story? It's like when I was in Togo, Africa was another one because that I was almost arrested for smuggling, and the end of that story. I'll skip right to the end of the story. I got away with smuggling, so I'm whenever I go, I'm a big drinking guy. And when I go to a different country, I ask about, hey, what is the local uh, uh, drinks, the local alcohol? What's this country known for? And so, in my liquor cabinet at home, I've got like, a bottle of Cao Yang from Taiwan or a bottle of Soda Bay from Sri Lanka and Arak, Arrak, Arak from Sri Lanka. And in Togo, it was Soda Bay. And it was probably the most beautiful bottle I've seen. So had the liquor, and then each liquor was flavored with something. So it would be like cherry flavored Soda Bay, and you could see cherries in it. It was almost like a moonshine.
Yeah.
Or orange had oranges in it, or lemons had lemons in it. And then the neck of the bottle was wrapped in twine, and then had wax poured on it, and
Okay.
then seashells were embedded in the wax. Beautiful bottle, and all the stuff was potent too. God, it gave you such a headache. Tasted like turpentine.
Yeah.
But the bottle was beautiful. So I'm like, I'm probably never going to drink this again willingly, but I'd like to have a bottle for the collection. And I was going to get a couple bottles for friends because
Hmm.
that's what I give away for Christmas presents.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, and so I had like uh, I had like 6 bottles of Soda Bay, and the another guy on the team, he had like 2 bottles, and he had bought like 4 bottles of wine, and along with the Soda Bay, I had a bottle of I think I found a bottle of Jameson, like real expensive Jameson there at a not an expensive price. So I bought, we're carrying bottles on top of bottles between me and this other guy. So he's ahead of me in the X-ray line. His bag goes through, and uh, they say they take the bottles. You cannot take Soda Bay on a French Airways flight. And I say, why? Why is that? I don't know. You just can't take Soda Bay. In Thunder Dan's world, when Thunder Dan does not understand the reason for a rule, it does not apply to him. So you did not adequately explain why I can't take this on. Now, if you'd have said something like, oh, Soda Bay has been known to explode at 30,000 feet, I'm like, okay, that's a pretty good reason for that rule. I will obey
Yeah.
it. But when it's just because I said so, I've never done anything because somebody just said so. And so the the guy's pulling the Soda Bay bottles out, and uh, he had some wine. He's like, "Can I take the wine?" Yes, the wine is okay. And so he actually handed me a bottle because he was having problems shutting his bag. So I
Hmm.
took a couple bottles and put them in my bag. My bag goes through X-ray. You have bottles too? I'm like, no, just wine and whiskey. Just wine and whiskey. I open up my bag just a little bit. I don't open it. I open it
Yeah.
just enough to pull out wine, whiskey. No Soda Bay. No Soda Bay? No Soda Bay. Zip it up. I catch up with the guys at passport control. Guess who's the greatest smuggler in the universe? Not Han Solo, it's Thunder Dan. Guess who just got his Soda Bay through the checkpoint? Oh, yeah. Now, the team leader on this trip is already, has had his fill of Thunder Dan because we'd been in Togo for about 30 days, which is 29 more days than anyone should ever spend in Togo. And he had decided he'd had enough of me. And he gave me this look of, if we're stuck here for one more minute because of your shenanigans, I'm going to punch you in the face. I now know what that look looks like. I didn't know it then. So I didn't know how close I was to getting punched in the face. So we get everything, done where we get through passport control, we get our boarding pass, we're in the lounge. We're in the lounge for 2 hours. Nothing happens for 2 hours. Finally, they call our flight. We get in line. We're waiting in line to board the plane. In comes the biggest Togolese TSA agent I've ever seen. This guy was huge. And he's got a piece of paper in his hand. And he's walking around. Merrick, Daniel. Merrick, Daniel. And I'm like, that's my name. What's up? You must come with me. Oh, what's the problem there, boss? No problem, but you must come with me. And so I'm looking at my team leader and the other team members, and we have a policy that nobody separates. That it's a two-man integrity. Army has a battle buddy, two-man integrity, whatever you want to call it. And so we were a 5-man team. So the team leader orders 2 team members to get on the plane regularly. Another team member is staying with him to maintain 2-man integrity. Technically it's 2-man integrity because I'm under the custody of this TSA agent. And, so he's waiting. If I don't come back in time, the three of us will stay behind in Togo for however long it takes us to fly out again. So I'm following this guy, and he is easily twice my size.
Yeah.
I'm 5'7", he's, almost 6'6", he's a big guy. And so we walk to this door, and opens the door. I'm expecting to see an office. It's just a hallway. It's the back hallway. And we're walking, through the bowels of the airport. We get to another door. Okay, this must be the office. He opens it up. It's the backyard of the airport. It's outside. We're walking outside. Now I'm leaving the airport. Now I'm starting to look around because I think, I'm about to get jumped by about 5 pipe-hitting Togolese. I was like, we said no soda bay. And, I'm like, oh boy, I'm toast here. So we're outside now. We go to the back where I can see our plane, and the bags are on the conveyor belt going up to the belly of the plane. They ran my bag through another X-ray, a second X-ray. And they're like, but they have their rules. They can't just open someone's bag. You have to be present to open it. So okay. Like you have bottles. I'm like, yes, no soda bay, just wine and whiskey. And I open up my bag just a little bit again. wine, whiskey. There's no soda bay. No soda bay? No soda bay. Zip it up. I actually watch my bag on the conveyor belt going to the cargo area of the airplane. And I look up at, big guy, and I'm like, hey, you got to get me back to to my terminal here before they shut the door. Yes, we go now. And, we go back through. The plane is all but boarded. The door is about to shut when I come running up to the guys, and an even bigger shit-eating grin on my face than before. And like, guess who got his soda bay through a second time? That's right, baby. Han Solo's got nothing on Thunder Dan. I am the greatest smuggler in the universe. And years later, there was a guy on the team, Jason Horton. And I'd asked him, I said, how close was I to getting decked right then and there? And he said, pretty fucking close. And he's like, pretty close. It's like, I wanted to hit you. The team leader, Scott, wanted to hit you. I think the two other guys on the trip, I think they wanted to hit you. Just because the idea that I was going to have to spend one more day because of your foolishness. But the moral of the story is I got my soda bay through. I still have the bottle. I think it's in a box behind me right now.
Yeah.
I should have thought of this before. I could have had all these props lined up and ready and presenting one bottle of soda bay.
Yeah. That dude totally knew you had soda bay in your bag.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, we just have to do like just enough so it doesn't land on our heads
Yes.
if it gets found out.
Oh, and then I did a lot of Eastern Europe trips too. I did uh, Montenegro, which was really nice. Montenegro has gorgeous people in there, um, and women. The women of Montenegro, there's not one of them that's under 6 feet, which means
Wow.
there's not one of them there that gave me the time of day. I was like Leonard from The Big Bang Theory. I was like, why is everybody taller than me? And we went to the Real Casino Royale, where a friend of mine he had a system for roulette
Okay.
said he won all the time. It was impossible to lose. You're at all times you're covering 2/3 of the board. So da da da, and I lost about $200 within the first 20 minutes, and I was so pissed off that I'm going back to the room. I went back to the room and I emptied the mini bar. Completely just emptied the mini bar, and then I proceeded to turn that room into the Van Halen 79 tour. And, uh, you know, finally drank all the booze, passed out, went to sleep, woke up the next day. I'm like, all right, I'm getting a shower. I was still pissed. I'm getting a shower. I'm like, man, this trip was terrible. No women will talk to me. I lost all my money gambling. Just nothing can make this worse. I'm in the shower, but I'm still half drunk, starting my hangover. I don't notice that the shower curtain is hanging half out of the tub. So I finish my shower, I step out, and, I feel sloshing water on the bathroom floor as my clothes are now floating away. I didn't bring a change of clothes. We were only going to be there for that one night. I didn't have a change of clothes. I had to pull out my underwear and jeans that are soaking wet now. I'm having to wring them out, and we're getting ready to check out, which means I'm going to be in soaking wet clothes in the middle of November in Montenegro. I'm like, I'm about to freeze my balls off. Literally, off they come, because I'm like, I remember asking myself, the question, how could this possibly get any worse? I've just made it worse. And what a terrible weekend that was.
Everybody's looking at you like, what does this guy just jump out of the fountain? Like, why are you soaked?
The other, I remember doing a trip to Ukraine, my big trip to Ukraine there, where I got to meet a lot of really good guys that I'm not sure most of them are, still with us now
anymore. Yeah.
And I do remember hooking up with a girl in Ukraine, and she was a little bit older, and I didn't realize how the pulleys and the different accoutrements in a brassiere work to make yourself look so much better. Because when the springs and the pulleys came off, I was like, you are not the woman I picked up in the bar. This is fraudulent. This is fraud. But no, it was. So like I said, I ended up doing 5 years of that. Did 5 years of that, and then I thought I really wanted to go back to the Middle East again. We had a Coast Guard team in a separate. Well, we had two other teams over there. We had a team in Kuwait, the Middle Eastern training team, that did a lot of boardings, and they did a lot of training over there. And I thought I was really well suited to that mission. And they had a training team in Saudi Arabia, a permanent team in Saudi Arabia. I put in for both of those, and but I ended up getting the Coast Guard's tactical law enforcement team out of Florida. And this is where I was a little apprehensive, because at this point I was 40 years old, And the tacklet teams really are for younger men, men and women, and we had some really good gals on the team, but I was really struggling to meet the standards
Yeah.
of but I met them. I sucked it up and did the job. That was my final unit in the Coast Guard, and the the two really funny stories from that were well. There's a couple. I first get to Tacklet, and I knew a bunch of guys from the Tacklet teams because I had done two Coast Guard anti-terrorist teams, and so there's a lot of overlap. There's guys that just stay in the teams. They'll go from Tacklet to Miss team to a training job, back to Tacklet, back to a Miss team. So a lot of overlap, and so I knew a ton of guys, and when we first show up, they're like, okay, hey, we just got 10 new guys. Everybody stand up and introduce yourself. And of course, it's, hey, I'm Petty Officer Jones. I just got here from MSST Miami. I'm real excited to be here. Oh, hey, I'm, Petty Officer Smith. I just got here from the training staff in FLETC and real excited to be here. It gets to me. It's very boring for the first 9 guys.
Yeah.
And then it gets to me, and it said, allow me to introduce myself for those of you that don't know me already. The name's Dan, Thunder Dan, but the ladies just call me Space Mountain. I'm the oldest ride in the park, but I've still got the longest line, and all the beautiful women want to say they've taken that ride at least one time. Because I am Thunder Dan, the tower power, the man of the hour, too sweet to be sour. The limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing. I am the life taking, heart breaking, love making, quick like a cheetah, strong as a buck. The best thing to hit Tacklet, because without me, this unit would just suck. Now, everybody there who knew me was already standing up, clapping, laughing. I kind of forget sometimes that not everybody knows who I am. So there was a lot, mostly in the command staff, that were like, what the hell was that? I don't think we should put a gun in this guy's hand. And, luckily I had enough friends there that were like, no, you don't understand. That's Thunder. You'll get to like him once you know him. And, he's good guy. He's a good guy to have. And, but I got there and it shocked the hell out of some people because they'd never seen or heard of anything like that before.
No.
I did.
I can imagine you have the effect in a lot of places you go.
Yeah. Well, I got my final drug busts there. Final drug busts of my career were 2018. I retired in 2019. So this would have been late 2018. I was, and the getting big cocaine busts, that was kind of, why you went out there. That was not, it's a big deal, but it's not something that's unheard of. Like, hey, how much, it's not, did you get a cocaine bust? It's how much cocaine did you get? So I think I got, or that trip, I got about 3,000 kilos.
Wow.
That's enough too, to where when you're unloading it, you actually, they fill out paperwork saying, if you pop on a urinalysis for the next 6 months, you're considered to be clean because you're handling so much cocaine that, there's an inevitability of contamination.
You got licensed to party.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, that's the running joke. We get off the ship and it's like, all right, who's going to get the blow for this weekend? And, but the funny part of that was that trip, we had just come out of a 2-day layover in Guantanamo Bay. We're leaving Guantanamo Bay and we get called, hey, the Cubans are chasing a drug dealer. He's dumped his bales and the Cubans have stopped the boat and arrested the drug dealers, but the bales floated into Guantanamo Bay. We need to go scoop them up. Mm-hmm. So we scoop up the bales, and now it's for lack of a better term, a Mexican standoff with Cubans and us, and saying, hey, we've got the drugs, give us the boat and the drug dealers. And the Cubans going, we have the boat and the drug dealers, you give us the drugs. And meanwhile, I'm cutting into these bales, and uh, and the first thing I know when I cut into it, the first thing I see, I'm shocked. It's like, oh my god, this is grass. Who even smuggles this anymore? For the last 10 years, I can't remember any of my friends who were boarding officers getting a marijuana bust in the
Yeah.
last 10 years. It's just, why? Who's smuggling anything now when you can get it for free in half the United States? Or not for free, but you can get it legally in half the United States. And I remember cutting into this stuff, and I'm like, wow, man, who even runs grass anymore? And we took some, and here's the funniest part. We put it into the testing kit. The first test kit doesn't pop positive. They're looking at us like, what? And I'm like, oh, here's your problem, man. Look at how much stems and seeds you're putting in there. You're not putting in any actual, for those that don't know marijuana, the flowering plant is what you smoke, and it's what has the chemicals in it, the THC.
Need the buds, man.
I have to keep cutting. I'm cutting into this bale, and I have to keep going deeper and deeper. I'm like, man, I haven't seen stems and seeds like this since high school. What the hell are they trying to peddle here? And we finally get something that we can put into the test kit and pop it positive. But I'm just sitting there like, really? These guys are going to get in so much trouble with the Cubans because they don't play around with things like that.
Yeah.
For this high school grade, mostly stems and seeds, I remember joking with the other boarding officer. I'm like, these guys deserve to go to jail just because this weed is so bad. Like for trying to smuggle bad weed. That's what you need to be going to jail for. And and then one of my last Coast Guard missions was hurricane relief for Hurricane Maria and Puerto Rico. Went down to Puerto Rico and did a lot of safety and security for the FEMA people. We were security for when they distributed food and water. That was a real fulfilling mission because you're really on the front lines helping people out. Giving people that have no food, no water. And you're giving them food and water, and that was where I nearly lost my eye. That's why I have a bad eye. And my cornea got scratched, and we were bathing and, showering, with the really bad water that was there in Puerto Rico. And I caught a real bad eye infection. They actually had to get me out of the country. I was on the one of the last flights out for that week, and I get to, because they just didn't have they had an optometrist, they needed an ophthalmologist, they needed a medical doctor, and he's looking at my eye and taking samples, and he's like, yeah, it's good they got you here. He prescribed all these antibiotics. He said, it's a good thing they got you back here. You were about 24 hours away from losing that eye. And I was like, damn. And it was years and years later, I'm going through my VA stuff there to get my rating, and they send me to another eye doctor to get this out, see if is it 5%, 10%, whatever. And he's looking, he's like, oh, how did you scratch it? And I said, something hit me in the face. We're not sure if it was wood or a piece of wood or a piece of metal. He goes, oh no, it's definitely metal. And I was like, how do you know? He's like, there's still bits of rust in there. And I was like, so if you got a scope, you look at my eye, that corneal scar still has bits of rust in it. And technically the VA owes me a corneal transplant.
Yeah.
But I see too good out of it still.
Oh yeah, you're not bad enough. Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, I'm going to wait till it gets really, really bad before I start letting the VA cut into me.
And it doesn't bother you, like you didn't even realize you had pieces of metal in your eye.
So like if I close my good eye, if I straight down the middle, it gets really, really blurry for like a scar shape.
Really?
But my peripheral vision is still what it was before. And then
Yeah.
when I have both eyes open, this eye makes up for that, and I
Compensate. Yeah.
see, fairly well enough, and there's
Yeah.
no pain, no discomfort. So I'm like, so long as there's no pain and no discomfort, and I can see reasonably well,
Yeah.
I'm going to stay with it. It's only if there was pain involved, I would have gotten the surgery, and if it really was affecting me sight wise, I would get the surgery. But um, that and that eye, I think, pushed me over to my 60% rating, which
Yeah.
I proudly carry. I've been advised by friends to try to get re-examined to try to push it for 100%, but I've always felt like if I can still do things, if I can still jog around the track, and I can still do a PT test, if I can still pass a PT test, then I don't feel like I need a 100% rating. So I think the rating that I got is pretty fair.
Yeah.
And I tell you, I had good experiences with the VA. Which, yeah, I know you could do a whole series just on VA nightmares.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've
But
had my own issues with it.
the Wilmington, Delaware VA, I say, I've said this on other podcasts too, that they did a really good job. And though they did double book me one time, they booked me for an examination in one in Philadelphia and one in Baltimore at the same time.
How do you even do that?
Now, luckily, there's a phone number that you can call and say, yeah, I've been double booked. There's no way I'm getting it. And I remember, too, getting the response was, well, they're not at exactly the same time. You have time to complete one and get to the other. They were like a half hour apart.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way I'm getting from Philadelphia to Baltimore in a half an hour. So let's just go ahead and reschedule one of these.
Yeah.
But that's a big thing for those who are listening to the podcast who might have questions about the VA and their rating, or maybe their friend's rating. The big thing is making your appointments, keeping your appointments, and getting your evaluations done. And I was lucky that I had real good evaluations, and that the Wilmington, Delaware VA did a really good job with me. And that's pretty much the end of the career at that point.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that another big piece of advice, when I don't know how they do it in the Army with the Coast Guard, when you separate, they give you your medical records, to keep. Something that made it really easier for me to facilitate getting these evaluations and getting the checks and everything was I took mine down to Kinko's, and I had them make a complete copy of my medical records paper wise. They also put it on a disc for me. They also put it on a thumb drive, and getting all of that, especially now, because very rarely are they using any kind of paper these days. If you are get your medical records on a disc, get them on a thumb drive, get them to where you can get them in some form of digital media that you can, email them or show them on a computer, because that's really the only way people are looking at them these days.
Yeah. I don't know how it is nowadays, because I know were making the push on digitizing everything when I was in, but the problem that I had is that, and it may be better for active duty than the reserves, but the only medical records I got was everything that my unit had on hand, and the only thing that they had was anything that was evolved with being a part of the unit. So like when I got hurt overseas and I had to be in the Fort Stewart and the recovery unit, like they didn't have any of that. I have to get that from what is supposed to be in a central location. Or when I went on AT in California and I pulled a muscle, I pulled my groin muscle over there, and that's supposed to be in the system. Good luck getting that from whatever doctor they were partnered with over in California into the system. That's the trouble that I've run into getting a lot of my stuff, is even though it's supposed to be centralized, like it's not.
And I'll tell you what, anybody listening to the podcast now who's close to getting out, do yourself a favor and get as much of it done on your own, because my understanding is that the VA is about to have their funding cut. They are looking like they are on the chopping block, which means less money is going to mean less service and more things we have to do ourselves.
Yeah.
So get on that as much as you can, and get on that. And unfortunately, you're going to have to, people out there who are getting ready to go through this process, you're going to have to be a little bit more self-reliant, unfortunately.
I don't know about all that. I'm trying to make it happen myself, so
Yep.
I'll try to make it work. I don't have any good advice for anyone.
Well, but you'll have, as you progress through your trials and tribulations, you will get more. You'll get the experience, and the advice will come to be passed down.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. So you're in law school now, right?
Yeah, in fact, I'm in my last semester.
Your last semester, okay. So you pretty much immediately, as soon as you got out, you went straight to school,
Yeah,
or
so I had zero college.
okay.
I had less than zero. So no, yeah, I
And
shouldn't
law
say that.
school is
I had,
average like 6 years, right?
what's that?
Getting all the way through law school, you're talking like 6 years worth of college, right?
Yeah,
Ish.
yes. So I had one semester of community college, and of that semester, I only passed one class, which was Spanish. Uh, so when I applied, I got accepted at Wilmington University in Wilmington, Delaware, and I think they were the perfect school for me, because they're a school that really does focus more on adult learning, and as opposed to the University of Delaware or Delaware State University. They were more attuned to adult learning, and the realities of being adults who are trying to get that degree. You also have to balance family and a
Yeah.
job, and so the professors there were very understanding about, hey, if you got some kind of issue that pops up and you might not make a deadline, give me a call. Here's my phone number. Shoot me an email. Don't just take a zero on an assignment or a paper. I will work with you.
Yeah.
And that was something really special with that university that really impressed me. That they really went out of their way to try to help adults, and help adults that were trying to better themselves, get that degree. And then also, what separates them from the other universities in Delaware, they do a lot of online learning, so their servers were attuned to having the entire all the classes go online during COVID.
Yeah.
I retired 2019. I start going to school in 2020.
I was going to ask you about that because it's kind of wild. You got out of the military right before
Yeah,
everything hit the fan.
I tell you, if I'd have managed to stay in, maybe they wouldn't have been able to kick me out. So because when I retired specifically because I was given something called higher tenure, and where I was stuck at E6, and I had been in E6 for more than 20 years. And that basically, if you can't make E7 in 20 years, they don't kick you out. They'll do that for, if you're an E5 at 15, they'll kick you out. If
Yeah.
you're E4 at 13, they'll kick you out. If you're still E6 at 20 years, we're going to kick you out. So you probably ought to retire.
Yeah.
And, it's retire or get kicked out. And so, and actually my unit, that the TACK team, went to bat for me. They stepped up and said, no, we're short boarding officers right now, and he's really good. We want to stick our neck out and keep him around at least another year and give him one more chance to make chief. And I had one more chance, still couldn't make it. And and honestly, I couldn't make it because I could never write a really good test. And which is, now I'm very academically inclined. I start going to school in 2020. one day I'm in class, the professor gets an email in the middle of class and says, all right, next week's class is on Zoom. And he goes, I don't know what Zoom is, but they tell me I'm going to get a training session on it tomorrow. And then all the classes from now on are going to be on Zoom till further notice. Now, the University of Delaware and Delaware State University and Goldie Beacom College, and they all tried to do that. They all tried to go all Zoom, all online. Their servers couldn't handle the traffic.
Yeah.
Their servers crashed. There were students, there were tons and tons of students. It wasn't the students, it was their parents that said, whoa, we're paying for in-person learning. If you're going to go online, we want tuition reduced. And the university was basically saying, no, we're not going to reduce tuition. That's not going to happen. So I guess then we'll just go ahead and not do any classes then and wait till we go back to in-person learning.
Rather than come up with some kind of compromise, because like
they already had their money. They're not in the business of giving money back.
Yeah.
But Wilmington University was able to go all online. And because they, obviously online classes are a little more streamlined than your in-person classes. And because I had more time on my hands because we were quarantined, I'm like, you know what, instead of 4 classes a semester, I'm going to take 6 classes a semester.
Yeah.
And I started burning through all the requirements for the degree. And pretty soon I had gotten my 4-year degree, bachelor's degree, in a little over 2 years. And then boom, go over to the law school. And I'm finishing up my 3rd year there. And my last, in fact, not only is this my last semester, I have one more assignment, an online final to take. I'll probably take it right after I get off the Zoom call. And, but that's the last assignment of the last class, and be graduating in the spring. And then it's back to the real world. Got to find a real job again.
Yeah. Study to take the bar and all that.
Well, the degree I have is not a Juris Doctorate degree.
Okay.
So to be a lawyer, you take you get a Juris Doctorate.
Okay.
Which is like a doctorate degree, like an MD. This is called a JD.
Yeah.
And then you take a bar exam for the state that you want to practice in. So this degree that I've got is a master's degree, not a doctorate. So it's a little lower ranking.
Okay.
A master's of business law with specialty in regulatory compliance.
Okay.
So it's you work in the compliance departments of big corporations.
Okay. Gotcha.
And then you do corporate, the kind of corporate training. Yeah. The kind of training we would have to do in the military, your sexual harassment training, your fraud, waste, and abuse training. They have similar types trainings in corporate America. Mm-hmm. And so having that degree will help me get a job in that area of business.
Okay. So yours is more of just the understanding the ins and outs of it.
Yeah.
And okay.
So it's basically I would probably work for a lawyer.
Yeah.
It's more than a paralegal certificate, which I have too. I actually have my paralegal certificate also. But you're higher than a paralegal, but not quite as high as a lawyer.
So like on the law team though, like you would be doing a lot of potentially like the research and knowing the actual and bringing that research to the lawyers to if they have to take it to court mm-hmm. or something like that.
Yeah, basically lots of research of, hey, this is the new regulation for this product, or this is the new regulation for people working in an office. And we have to abide, or they might put me on the investigations team for like the company helpline. Hey, somebody called in an anonymous tip that this guy is laundering money. Mm-hmm. So we need to check his transactions and see if he's laundering money, or this guy is taking bribes. We need to see if he's taking bribes. That kind of thing. So it would be, I would be on the team that would investigate
Gotcha.
that particular employee.
Okay. So what do you think switched in your head? Because you said you're not very academically inclined. You had a problem with the tests and stuff for E7.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go to law school and you're obviously doing very well to be able to, knock out a 4-year degree in almost half the time and such. What do you think clicked to make it? Is it just the subject matter is more engaging for
No,
you?
I think I'm more of a subject matter on the tests that for E7. Uh,
Yeah.
I always felt like I was more of a subject matter expert in that area, but I think it's um, a lot of it is study habits. A lot of it is test taking habits that I was able to refine being back in an academic environment.
Okay.
Whereas when I was taking the tests, I thought of myself as this big, high speed, low drag. I'm an operator. I'm a tough guy. Yeah, I don't need to crack that book. I don't need to study that. But then when you're going to school on the GI Bill and I'm getting, a living stipend, it's like, hey, you know what? They're paying me to go to school. I might as well put in the proper work. And putting in the proper work means studying, which is it's just not something I did, or at least I didn't do it very well when
Yeah.
I was when I was in the military. I thought, and I think too, there's a little bit of ego involved, that I thought, you know what, between all my award points and my marks, I always got really high marks because I was always a really good worker. So
Yeah.
my supervisors would give me high marks. Um, and I was maxed out on awards points. I had just the amount of awards that I had picked up on all those overseas trips. And in fact, did we ever tell you the story of, because I just saw the podcast you did with Lieutenant Gerdo, Captain Gerdo,
Yeah.
and he put us in for an award, the coasties there, the four of us,
Yeah.
and they were desperate to try to cut those awards away when the command staff in Kuwait heard about it. Well, for those that don't know the whole story, that was the last month that we worked together. We had run out of containers to inspect. We had run out of hazardous material to do paperwork for. The coasties, we had nothing to do. We were just, at this point, it was, hey, go into the office, let's play some video games, and then go to dinner. You guys, on the other hand, you had a lot of work for those last 3 or 4 weeks. You guys were burning, turning and burning. You were doing 18, 19-hour days. They had cut some of your staff too.
Yeah.
Like the work increased and the people decreased. And so you guys are working your ass off. And Gerdo had come up to me and said, hey, technically I can't order this, but do you think you and the other coasties could help us out? And I said, yeah, I think, that's, hey, we got nothing else to do, we all, and it was a thing. I didn't even have to order Butters or Steve or Jess. They all volunteered too. So, the four of us volunteered to step up and help out where we can, and, help you guys out with those last few weeks of movement operations. And, Gerdo was very appreciative. He said, hey, I'd love to put you guys in for the Army achievement.
Yeah.
And I was all for it. I'm like, hey, that sounds great, because we really did go above and beyond what our mission was. And I remember even mentioning, because I remember mentioning first to the command, I said, hey, our guy, I'm talking to my command back in Kuwait. the executive officer, Lieutenant Bannon, and I remember saying, "Hey, we've really been going above and beyond what our mission was. We've been really helping out the Army guys. I'd really like to put uh, Butters, Jess, and Steve. I want to write up, I say, hey, don't even give one to me. Just give it to them. I want to write up 3 Coast Guard achievement medals for them." And he said, "No, absolutely not. The medals you're getting are the medals you're getting. You're going to get that cookie cutter Army commendation, and that everybody's getting, and you're going to get a cookie cutter, you know, Iraq campaign medal. You're already getting 2 medals. You don't get any more than that." And I said, "Well, we should get some more than that, because we've been going above and beyond." "No, you do not put them in for any medals." I'm like, "All right, sir, I won't put them in for any medals." And Gerdo was listening to this. He goes, "You know what? I can put them in for some medals." And let me, and you know what? I'll run it through my National Guard unit so that nobody knows where these medals even came from. They'll just appear one day. And I said, "That's sneaky and underhanded, sir. I've been a bad influence on you." He writes them up. And I remember we're back in Kuwait, and this is the funniest part of the story, because you remember Steve, and if I had to describe Steve in one word, it's asshole. And even he'll tell you that. Steve will be the first to tell you. He's like, "I'm not an asshole. I'm the asshole." And so, and he was a reservist on top of it. So if I thought the rules never applied to me, Steve really thought the rules never applied to him.
Yeah.
So we're sitting in Kuwait, and the command gets word that 4 Army achievement medals are coming through for these 4 coasties. And like, what's going on? I told you don't put in for any medals. Like, I didn't put them in for anything, sir. This is all coming from somebody else. And you could tell, like, he's getting mad. And he's like, "How are these guys getting extra medals?" And he's looking up. He goes, "Well, just so you know, I don't want this to be a surprise, but what might end up happening is, this might affect your end of tour award. So, instead of getting an Army commendation and an Army achievement, you might just get 2 Army achievements."
Yeah.
And I think I yelled out the word bullshit. I was like, "Bullshit." And like, he's looking at me, and I'm like, I know I should apologize, but I'm not ready to yet. And and he's like, "Listen, I'm just saying, just be ready for that." And that's when Steve piped up and said, because I think we were like, it was going to be a colonel or a general or somebody. There was a general was going to come and give us our end of tour awards.
Yeah.
Because we were all set to leave about the same time. And so, he's like, "Hey, just be ready. The general may give you 2, achievements." And Steve pipes up and goes, "Sir, honestly, if they're gonna downgrade my award, my end of tour award, because I did extra work, then I might have to just politely decline that award." And that's when, now he loses. He's like, "You will not do any such thing. You will politely accept whatever is handed to you." And I remember looking at him and saying, "Sir, that's Steve, right? So, and when has Steve ever done something? When has Steve ever said he was going to do something and then not done it? when has he ever said, 'I'm going to be an asshole in this situation,' and not been an asshole in that situation?" He's going to do it. It. And as luck would have it, the end of tour awards were never messed with.
Yeah.
And people, I know it's been in the news lately too, with they talk about Hegseth's 2 Bronze Stars, and whether they're cookie cutter awards or other people called them participation trophies. I never got that, even though the end of tour awards were pretty much set at a certain level. I think I got wrapped up in the awards thing because they're promotions. That's very important, especially if you're going to make a career of this. people say, hey, you shouldn't be doing this for the medals. No, I'm doing this to advance and advance my career. And you do that through promotions. You get promotions partly based on your awards.
Yeah.
Your awards are points that go into your evaluation. And so I'm trying to get the guys as much awards as I can because I'm trying to help them get promoted. I'm trying to help myself get promoted too. And I don't. I understand people having an attitude of, hey, you shouldn't be just doing this for the award, but at the same time, awards are important, and I've always thought that they're a really important way of recognizing somebody's hard work.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I can still see I can still see the steam coming out of that lieutenant's ears because Steve was like, "No, I'll just tell the general to shove this one up his ass,
Yeah.
and so I'll keep this one because I earned this one. The other one, he can keep that one." And
The thing that's really annoying about it is like when you say the cookie cutter and I mean I agree to an extent that I didn't do it for the awards. I mean, getting deployed certainly was something that helped me get promoted, for sure. But because I had a lot of awards that people didn't have, especially at that time, people weren't getting deployed over there anymore.
yep,
But when your command is trying to put you in, like you say, when you go above and beyond, when you put in the extra work, and then when your command, when your leadership is trying to put you in for that award, and then they tell you that you don't deserve it because everyone gets the same award, like that's fucking horse shit, you
yep,
know? And from what I understand, they even tried to put, so I don't remember which awards or what, but there's like a tier. If you have like the Army Achievement AAM, the Army Commendation, then the next is like the MSM or whatever. And so it's like they put you in for accommodation because they know that the brass is going to knock it down to an Army Achievement. And they just have to make the paperwork look good, which doesn't matter anyway, because you can be like have the most glowing review in the paperwork, and they still bust you down to the next one because they can't have you getting a better award than someone else.
yeah,
So they were trying to put us in for that next tier because they're like, no, like they should get the accommodation, not just the AAM that everybody gets, because they did a lot extra. They were the last guys here. We pushed a lot of stuff and made it happen. There was a broken system that they had that we somehow made it work. And even though and so yeah, it sucks when you hear that, like when you have somebody going to bat for you and you don't get it because of some bureaucratic bullcrap of everybody gets the same award. I mean, you see it even with other stuff, like how many congressional medals and Purple Hearts and stuff do people get posthumously 60 years later because they had to fight the government for 60 years because they didn't want to admit that this person did better, and it doesn't
yep,
make any sense. So that's what really makes me mad about all that. Like I said, like not having the award, not that big a deal, but when someone else out there is trying to show you like, nah, man, like these people, they did great things, and then they're like, nope, you like everybody else, shut up. And then when you talk about the Bronze Stars and stuff, when it comes down to rank, it's like if you were a major, all the majors got Bronze Stars, and they made all of their applications for the Bronze Star, even though 80% of them didn't do dick while they were over there. They sat in their comfy chairs in their office and sent an email every once in a while. Oh, no, they were leaders of this team and that team. And they did all these amazing things. And they get a Bronze Star. Because you're old? Like, why? You didn't do anything. You didn't lead anybody. You didn't make the team better.
the thing that really upset me, and I saw this over my whole career. I can't tell you how many times I saw people who were put in for an award that they had earned, um, and then it would be either shot down completely or reduced with the excuse of, well, this person of a higher rank is only getting this award.
Yeah.
So I can't give an E4 a Bronze Star when I'm only giving this lieutenant an MSM. That kind of attitude. I'm like, no, what did the individual person do?
Yeah.
Not what did the rank do? What did that individual person do? And I saw it. Oh man, I can think of a half dozen times off. I knew a guy who he was at a pool party, um, and this 4 year old was drowning in the pool, and was almost gone. I mean, face down. You know, nobody was around the pool at the time, so this 4 year old's face down, not moving. Guy dives into the pool, pulls the kid out, does CPR, gets the kid breathing again, gets the heart started, does everything you want to see out of a Coast Guard movie. They put him in for the life saving award, and it gets all the way up to the top and then gets cut down. Well, because the life saving award is only for rescues in waters of the United States. And somebody's pool isn't waters of the United States, like the ocean. And I'm like, that's the stupidest reason I've ever heard to, downgrade somebody's award or to, cut it out completely. Um,
You always ask these people to go above and beyond, and when they do, and you don't even, say thank you, you're just like, yep, whatever, good job, and walk away. Like, yeah, no wonder they're pissed.
yeah,
I could go on and on about that. It's
yeah.
just so dumb and so silly. That's like the what was it? The golden jump wings. What do they call it? The Hollywood jumps overseas. Did you hear about those?
No.
So it was like if you had so many jumps into Iraq, then you got a certain award for it, and you would hear about people getting bumped off flights and things getting delayed so they could push generals through to jump into certain bases. So they're not jumping into anything, like they're jumping onto a base. So yeah, sure, it's in Iraq, it's dangerous, but they're not jumping into combat. But they're making them. They call them the Hollywood jumps, so that they had the jump time, so that the general could walk away with his gold wings or gold parachute or whatever it was to make his resume look
Mm-hmm.
better. But
We
screw everybody else.
we saw that at a few of the coastie bases in Iraq. The What was happening was you get your Iraq campaign medal for, was it 30 consecutive days or 60 non-consecutive days. And what the problem was, there were people who would come over and they would be assigned to a Coast Guard cutter, but they would immediately be on the cutter that was going to dry dock. So sometimes these dry docks would last 10 or 11 months.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, hey, I'm getting ready to rotate out, but I've only got, 6 or 7 days actually in Iraqi waters. I'm not eligible for the Iraq campaign map. So they would send these guys to our office with no training on what we do. Like, hey, yeah, you can hold the hammer for me. Hold this clipboard and write down numbers that I tell you to write down. But it was starting to get ridiculous that we would have, all of a sudden there'd be like 6 or 7 coasties showing up on base, and like that, there's only one clipboard to hold. It's I'm like, I'm willing to help a guy out, that maybe he's, got 25 days, in Iraqi waters. Then his boat went to dry dock and he wasn't able to get on another boat. So, hey, come bring them over for 5 days. Yeah, no problem. But they were having these guys come over, for 60 days sometimes to try to get their, and I'm like, now they're starting to get in the way. Now,
Yeah.
Or it would have not been a problem if some of them didn't have really bad attitudes.
Yeah.
Like they're like they would come over and they're like, all right, hey, you and you're gonna come with me. You carry the tool bag, you carry this clipboard, and we'll do the measurements, and you will write out what we tell you to write out. And they would act, not all of them, but some of them would act so butthurt that we're asking them to do a little work,
Yeah. While you're taking up space.
for the medal that you really really want, uh, that you're inconveniencing us to get.
Yeah.
But now I'll tell you, what I'd love to do one of these days is maybe get Butters and Steve and Jess all on a Zoom like this and see
Yeah.
get the whole and because they I'm sure they'd remember a bunch of uh, stories that I'm forgetting.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'm totally down. I mean, I'm sure Jesse would want to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know so much about Steve,
No,
because
I talk to Steve once in a while. I bet I could get him to do it.
I don't want to put like a lot of his business out there, but he declined
Oh,
to do the
oh,
thing, and which is fine. That's his, if he doesn't want to do it, that's fine. I'm not gonna, push the issue. I mean, if you asked him and he was willing, that's up to him. But Butters, I don't have any contact information for anymore. Like
I
I used to have his number.
yeah, I got contact information
Okay.
for him. I'll find out this
I
week.
don't know if Butters just doesn't like me or not, because like I talked to him one or two times and then he just started ghosting me all of a sudden.
Huh.
So I'm sure there's no issue between us,
No.
but yeah, if he would want to, yeah, I'd love to have him on and get some of his perspective and stuff from his
I,
side.
I was just thinking of a story with me and Butters. Just in case we don't get him on, I'll tell the story now. If he gets on, he can tell his version. The I think I had just gotten to Camp Adder, um, and the Air Force lost all my stuff.
Oh yeah.
They like you come over with like the little the trunk of stuff that and so I had basically had my whole life in this plastic trunk. In fact I had like all my clothes, everything. I didn't even have like a change of I didn't have a change of uniform. I didn't even have a change of underwear. And uh and my flight had gotten delayed, so I sat in Air John for like 24 hours. Um hadn't had a shower in like a day and a half. I get off the plane. I'm like, all right, I'm looking at the Air Force guy. Like, hey, where's my luggage? Oh, yeah, your pallets got switched and it's going to Spiker or, okay, well, all right, well, how long for a turnaround? Well, Spiker, we only get flights there once a week. So your stuff won't be here till next week. I remember the only thing I had the backpack on. I dropped the backpack. I was holding that gigantic rifle that I had, that M16 A1. I remember I held it up in my hand, like this. And then I dropped it. I let it drop like a mic drop. I caught the barrel with both hands and had it up like a baseball bat. And I started to swing it at this guy's head. Butters out of nowhere catches the stock with his hand. And he is, Thunder, I'm taking you to the chew to get some sleep. And I'm staring at this guy with like bloodshot eyes, like I look like a lunatic. And the Air Force guy's like, I didn't switch the pallets, and
Yeah.
so Butters literally has. I talk about that. Butters literally saved me multiple times from myself, and
I mean, to be fair, like I won't disparage any one branch of the military, but I don't know what it was about those Air Force guys in the airport. They were so smug, man.
oh yes,
All of them. And now some of the Air Force guys we worked with in transportation, they were cool. They were cool as hell. But the ones in the airports, man, some smug people.
this was a lot of
As I
fun,
say,
man.
yeah, man, I had a great time again. I feel like it's coming to a natural ending point at that. So thank you again for coming on and sharing the rest of your career with us.
Well, thanks for having me. And like I said it in the first one we did. I think that when Ken Burns does his documentary of either the global war on terror or the war in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan, I think these will be the snippets that he actually has to work with, as
Yeah.
opposed to letters and diaries from the guys in the Civil War.
Wow.
I'm glad we could get these stories out here, and memorialized digitally.
Yeah, yeah, me too. It's been an awesome experience, and I've got a bunch lined up. I'm going to keep doing them, and I'm branched out to a few other people that were outside of our team and stuff. So there's going to be more to come, and hopefully, just help me put the word out to try to get some more eyeballs on it. Not for my sake, but I just want you to put your guys' stories out there.
It's an important thing. Hopefully like somebody like the Coast Guard Museum. It's funny. I'm going to the Coast Guard Academy Museum next week for a friend's retirement, and
Yeah.
I'm hoping something like this might be picked up, by them and use some of your footage, your material, for to keep this alive. The
Yeah.
the better we remember something, the less like we are to repeat it. So
Hopefully. But next time you go to the Coast Guard Ball, just tattoo Warrior Unknown on your forehead.
hey, that's it.
Well, thank you, man.
You're welcome, brother. Anytime.